white, so I see the little green. Oh, it's the red, right? Yes. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you like to take a look at the agenda, and would someone like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as is?
So moved.
For a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay. We're going to start out with our commendations for our students of the month and volunteer and staff. Could we start with the elementary, please?
Good evening, everybody. We have two students to introduce tonight.
So we're going to start with our K-3 student of the month. If we can call Callie back up. And this is what her teacher said about her. Mr. Moore said, Callie pays attention to detail, which makes her great at skills like story writing and penmanship. She cares about others, is willing to help, and has a great sense of humor, and truly makes our class a better place. And Mr. Gonzalez says, Callie Beck is an amazing student who practices perfectly what it means to be a Nyssa bullpup. Callie is a friend to her classmates and is willing to help. Callie is an excellent Spanish speaker and good at problem solving. I am proud and happy to have Callie in my classroom. Thank you, parents, for doing such a great job.
Okay, and our fourth, fifth student of the month is Nicolene Trujillo Garcia. Nicolene, would you come on up, please? Nicolene is a fourth grader in our dual language classrooms, and this is what Mrs. Aguas on the English side has to say. Nicolene Trujillo has been a pleasure to have in class every day since August. She is prepared and has her materials organized. She takes schoolwork seriously and does quality work on every task. She enjoys most subjects and is an avid reader. Nicolene was gone for several weeks for a family trip. She asked for homework in advance and completed it while gone. She was ready to take the lesson test with the class the first day back. Nicolene works well in groups and gets along well with all students. I am proud of Nicolene, and I know her family is too. And Mr. Segura on the Spanish side says Nicolene has been an awesome student to have in class. She's eager to learn, has a great attitude, does not waste time, and does a good job on any assignment I give her. The great thing about Nicolene is that she's respectful and kind to everyone around her. She's the definition of a good friend. Gran trabajo ese año y a los padres gracias por sus esfuerzos.
Mr. Cleaver, everyone else?
It's my pleasure to introduce the middle school student of the month, Miss Emily Vela. She just came from basketball practice, I'm sure, right? Got a couple really nice things about Miss Emily. There's lots of nice things about Emily, but we're going to go. Miss Hunter said, Emily's a great student to have in class. She always manages to have a cheerful disposition and a positive attitude. She is conscientious, sets a good examples for those around her, and gets along well with her peers, finding a good balance between socializing and getting the work done. Mr. Hunter. Mr. Sapp said, Emily's a wonderful student and someone who I've gotten to know personally over a few years out of school. I'm going to be honest, I am biased. I would vote for Emily every single month. She gets great grades and is very kind to all students, and she is always a joy to have in class. She's been raised by very wonderful parents, and she is going to go very far in life. I'm grateful to have Emily in class and in my life. Congratulations, Em. Well earned. And Mr. Moise kept it really simple and sweet. Emily's an amazing student. She's a classroom leader and a fantastic example to everyone around her. I agree. Thank you, Ms. Emily.
Thank you. Mr. Jackman, is that his calling?
Alrighty. Alrighty. Students. 4.0 students going to be a valedictorian. Even with advanced coursework like pre-calculus, math 111, and anatomy. And of course, she's our ASB president. And you've all seen her on the court as our varsity girls basketball player. So Lauren, come on down. So you know her because she does the report each month. She truly is amazing. This is what our teachers tell or say about her. Let's start with Mr. Blanchard. Lauren is one of the busiest students in Nyssa High School. Her involvement in the school runs the gamut from student council and volunteer work to a varsity participant in multiple sports. While keeping herself busy beyond the school day, she has maintained excellent academics through hard work, good study habits, and not settling for her very best effort. She is also an excellent mathematics student. All of her work is complete, neat, and turning on time. The force may run strong with this youngling, but her lack of participation in the sport of the Jedi Masters tennis has hindered her growth. Lauren will make Nyssa High School and the community of Nyssa proud to say she grew up in Nyssa. May the force be with you, Mr. Blanchard. And so, yeah, you're going to have to try tennis someday. Mr. DeLong says, I have had the privilege of coaching and teaching Lauren for several years. Lauren is dedicated to everything she does. She is a great student in the classroom and a super role model for her teammates in sports. Keep up the amazing work, Lauren. That's from Mr. DeLong. And, page. This is a 2-pager. That's pretty cool. I'll do one more. This is from Mrs. Vargas, who works with Lauren in student council. Lauren is a remarkable student who is very deserving of being recognized as Student of the Month. I first had Lauren in my English 11 class last year, and I appreciated how focused and hardworking she was throughout the year. While other students spent time goofing around before starting their assignments, Lauren got right to work because she knew she had to practice a game or other work to do after school. She was also an excellent student who always met or exceeded expectations and had unique insights to share. However, my favorite thing about Lauren is her fierceness, which you've seen if you've ever watched her play volleyball, basketball, or softball, or if you've seen her stand up for what she believes in. I admire her fierceness and how she uses it to advocate for others as ASB president. In this role, she has urged for more activities for students and more inclusiveness, not charging or charging less for activities, for example, so that more students can participate. I know that whatever Lauren does after high school, her strong work ethic and passion will take her far. I will definitely miss seeing her next year. And so there's 2 others, but I'll let her read those. One's from Dad, it's really cool. But when she ran for office, I thought, some people run for the popularity contest and some because they want to change the world. And Lauren was one of those who wants to change the world. And she's looking for ways of making our school a better place, and I really appreciated that. Whether it's helping to hope, whether it's being a friend regardless of the group, right? That our students are in, respectful times as well. Yep, a good kid. So anyway, got your certificates. Congratulations. So you have a shirt, and you have this.
All right, our employee of the month is Miss Jolene O'Connor. Jolene, come on down. I am always nervous to read publicly and out loud in front of an English teacher, but I'll just quote people. Ms. O'Connor, as a teacher, is always up to help improve the lives of students in any way that she can. She has always been someone I can go to as a teacher, and I know she'll be professional and courteous to me and the students as well. We are lucky to have Ms. O'Connor as a teacher here and a mentor to our kids, Mr. Sapp. For the past 5 years, I've watched Ms. O'Connor serve Nyssa High School students and staff with patience, persistence, and love, I really don't know what we were going to do without her to meet our ninth graders where they are and help them transition into high school English. It's a tough job. It takes a very particular set of skills. She has worked hard to develop. Yes, I purposely used that phrase from the movie Taken because if you've been in one of Miss O'Connor's freshman class, one of her career transition students, you know she wants you to succeed. And if you don't turn in your work, she will look for you. She will find you. And she will make you take the OTI and finish your assignments. You have to be really slippery to avoid success in her classes. I also don't know what I would have done without Ms. O'Connor here to help me transition from working with college students and working with high school students. And I'll be eternally grateful to her for all her support when I started here at Nyssa, as well as her support as I transition into school counseling. I'm glad I'll still see her around because she has promised to sub at Nyssa High School after she retires. Thank you, Julie, and congratulations. Ms. O'Connor has been a crucial support for the high school this year. She really went above and beyond in her efforts to show good things happening at Nyssa High School in our accreditation process. She was the rock of the group. She was willing to spend hours poring over all the documents collected and helping to think through our processes and offer insights and suggestions. Without her, our school would not have been nearly as successful in the accreditation process and meetings or the classroom. She has been invaluable. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I have something for you. If I can find it.
Did you have that?
Here it is. And I just want to add that she has restless freshmen that come in for English 9, and she has restless seniors who go out with career transitions, and she gets them both through. And when I came to the high school, she was one of those that kind of helped me. Kind of her and Sarah Sapp were the two that kept me on track, and so I appreciate you.
Before you guys leave, those of you who got awards, they'd like to take your picture out in the hallway, and you can grab a treat on your way out, so we'll give you a minute to we'll get your picture taken. Picture time.
I'll be right back.
Okay, we'll move on to some of our visiting patrons. First, we have Mrs. Nikki Shira to talk about the makerspace.
All right, thank you, Chair Ramos. So my name is Nikki Shira, and I taught for 13 years, 5th grade here at Nyssa Elementary. So I'm an educator and a bullpup at heart. And for the last 6 years, I've been the director of the Frontier STEM Hub. And I work through Malheur Education Service District. And in that role, one of our goals is to provide support for school districts, for administrators, teachers, and families to provide hands-on STEM learning opportunities for students. And I take that really seriously, and for the students of our region, it's really, really important. And one of those reasons, and as most of you know, the students in Eastern Oregon face a lot of different challenges. And one of those challenges is that Malheur County has the highest child poverty rate in the state at 30% compared to the state's average of 15%. But why does that matter for education? Well, research tells us that children experiencing poverty are less likely to be successful in school, and that they are more likely to have greater difficulty accessing the job market later in life. Research also tells us that this is because poverty can limit a child's educational, social, and personal development due to more limited access to opportunities. So when we think about access to opportunities, that's why the work that we do is so important. And so I'm here this evening to thank the school board and to thank administration for working with the Frontier STEM Hub to help so that we have access to the old modular building that was the art classroom, so that we could make that available to students through a makerspace. Through makerspaces, students have access to digital fabrication, to making and creating, and to the opportunity to gain and build skills. So what is a makerspace? Well, makerspaces are spaces filled with cutting edge technology, with curriculum and support. And that some of that equipment, well, actually, let's see, there it is. So that equipment includes 3D printers, laser engravers, vinyl cutters, and then access to computer-aided design software, and the computers that can run that software. So now with Chromebooks in so many of our classrooms, Chromebooks don't run a lot of the computer-aided design software that is necessary to run some of the equipment. So we are able to provide that in the makerspace through the Frontier STEM Hub. Spaces provide youth with the tools and the support needed for them to be makers and to be innovators and to gain those 21st century skills that are really important for them as they prepare to go out into the workplace. So our work started with mobile makerspaces because we knew that districts often have limited resource, their staff don't have the experience with some of the technology, and so we have been loading up utility trailers with the equipment and hauling it out to classrooms and schools, to public spaces for students to be able to access these opportunities, to reduce those barriers to access. We've partnered with community partners like Oregon State University Extension, with teachers here in your district, and have set up at the high school library. And we've been set up there for after-school opportunities and in school where teachers bring their classes into the library, and for summer school opportunities for kids. With that work, let's see if it will go. Our team, a collaborative effort, including one of your teachers, Mrs. Emma Long, received a national award for excellence in teamwork that was awarded just this last October for our work in mobile makerspaces and removing barriers to access for students. So the purpose of makerspaces is to provide meaningful opportunities for youth, for these things listed, to have a space where they belong and where they can thrive, where they can gain skills and gain confidence, where they're able to connect what they're learning in the classroom to the real world. So in the makerspace, they're connecting math skills like coordinates and coordinate pairs, quadrants, planes, symmetry, all those things. They're connecting skills to the real world and developing those 21st century skills like problem solving, collaboration, and persistence. Because when youth are creating something for themselves or creating something for somebody they care about, they are going to make sure that it is done right. If they encounter a problem and their design isn't correct, they really put the effort into problem solving and figuring out the problem so that it is done right. And it's amazing the persistence that they have, and those are skills that they're developing as they're working through that. One of our students said, working in the mobile makerspace helped me realize what I like to do and what some of my talents are. So in this space, students are using equipment. They can use the laser engraver to do water bottles and mugs. They can engrave in wood on like cutting boards and heat press t-shirts. They can do stickers and decals. It's about expanding that access to skill development opportunities. So again, here's more students. This is set up in the high school library. When we set up here in Nyssa last summer, last spring, we were overwhelmed with students. The first couple of days, we were maybe 3/4 full. We had 35 laptop computers available for students to work on. And by the third or fourth day, we had students waiting for laptops to open up during that after school time. So knowing the interest that we had, we have pursued, through the Frontier STEM Hub, we've pursued funding to provide permanent maker spaces for students. So we've received funding from Governor Brown's initiative for computer science, because working in the spaces does support those computer science skills. And then we applied for and received an ESSER 3 after-school STEM grant also. And with those grant funds, we are able to purchase the supplies and the equipment to furnish the makerspace. And we also have some funding to help support staff for after-school opportunities. So, and that is work that, as far as that staffing and that we will need to sit down with administration and a team to lay that out and determine how, what that will look like and how that will move forward. We've just gotten into the space. So the STEM Hub was scheduled to work with Mr. Boyer's art classes last week. We were going to take equipment into his classroom, but we received a call that the modular had new HVAC and was ready. And a huge shout out to Mr. Melendez and his custodial staff. They jumped right in and got to work so that space was ready. And we moved equipment in so that Mr. Boyer could just take his students right to the makerspace area to do that work. So they were out there all last week. Today they were back in there working with the laser engravers. So we're just starting that work. And there are several staff members from the district that have participated in professional development, who have brought students in to work in the space and have experience in using equipment and supporting students in the maker spaces. There are all kinds of opportunities, whether that is working with our younger students, your younger students from the elementary for special projects, whether it's creating awards for your students, for students of the month, or thank yous for parents, the opportunities that students can create items and things for the school it's really endless. And I just want to thank you so much for your support in making that happen. So are there any questions about the makerspace and the work that we've started?
So it's up and going?
It is. It's not complete. There's still equipment that needs to be ordered. The laser engraver that's in there right now is the one from the STEM Hub that's a part of our mobile equipment that we take to different schools. But we have a laser engraver ordered for that space, so it will be here in about a month.
For the after school, how are you advertising to kids to let them know that the program exists? Or
Right.
to parents to encourage their kids to go?
Yeah, so that's those are some of the details that we'll need to work out with administration on how we will launch that and roll that out. Yeah, we would really like to be able to start out with some smaller cohorts or groups, like 15 students to really teach them those skills and how to use the equipment. And then rolling it out to more of like open time where students can come in and create and make.
Do you have a full-time staff person in there?
That is a great question. Right now we do have a full-time STEM TOSA who supports the maker spaces, but she would not be like full-time for Nyssa. She's supporting spaces all over the county. And so there is funding for that after school time right now in the after school grant for Nyssa. It's 2 hours, 2 days a week that would go through next school year. So it's not a lot of time, but it would help start that work.
So for us to hire one of our local people to take that spot. Okay.
Yes. And then about the equipment, that equipment that is purchased with this grant funding for the makerspace would continue to be under the Frontier STEM Hub, but it would be Nyss's space as long as it's being used for students. So
Cool, thank you.
yeah.
You also have any questions?
Yeah, any other questions?
We appreciate all your hard
Great
work,
job.
thank you.
I do have an example of a student's work. So one of the high school students today took the image of the Nyssa Bulldog and used our Rhino computer-aided design software to create this. They put it on the laser engravers today and ran these in the space today. So I have one for each of the board members. So there are 2 colors, and I'm just going to hand them out, and you guys can share which of your color. Yeah. So again, thank you for your support.
This is great. My son came home with a vinyl sticker.
Oh, very good.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you so much. Very interesting. Okay, next we have Mr. Sapp with middle school baseball.
So I just was coming to check and see if you guys had made a decision on what we were going forward with this year in terms of middle school baseball, and if it was new staff or, those financial.
We apologize that we didn't get back to you earlier. From what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Johnson, is it wasn't in the budget for this year, so there's no money for this year, but we would like to put it in the budget for next year. Is that what we?
It wasn't budgeted for this year, and it was, the cost is not prohibitive, right? I mean, I think it's something financially we can do. It just does require some planning. We have buses and travel and coaches and contracts. So to me, that is something that the board would need to decide. I've given my recommendation that it's probably something that is for next year. This year would be hard to add up for a lot of those reasons, but the board can make the decision.
I would like to encourage the board to consider accepting this proposal. I think that where we have staff members who are willing to put forth the effort, and we know that the cost isn't necessarily prohibitive, and that we would be willing to put it in next year's budget, I see no reason why we shouldn't accept it this year. Those are my thoughts.
Travis, what is the minimum amount you would need to do this year, fund this year?
I think that the number that Crystal had said was like 14,000.
Which is the 14,000.
Was 16. Sorry, 16,000. So, and we're in a unique position where it hasn't started yet, so like we can still jump in and participate and be a part of it. So
And this is baseball and softball, right? We're talking both. That's
yeah,
last year.
yeah.
Boys and
Was it? I thought it was just baseball.
That's both.
That's both, I believe.
If you look at the breakdown.
Oh, right there, okay.
grant that you just got, was that for just high school?
Yeah,
okay.
and it's for equipment only.
Okay.
Like it's not for coaching stuff, right? I love the nice bonus, but that's not how it works, right? It's just for equipment. So
I know Crystal's not here, but do we have the money somewhere for this year?
We can find it. Yeah.
I do have a question. So, because it said, coaches, so are the coaches selected already? Like they're ready on board?
no, but it
No.
would be.
But you'll make it happen, is what I heard last time.
Yes, I am.
Like with or without support, you'll make this happen, is what I heard you say.
You're right, and I did, and I didn't mean to be aggressive or.
No,
assertive,
I
but
don't think so either.
It's going down, and it's nice that it's. Thank you, I appreciate the
And
support because.
What
it
I
is a big
heard was you want this for our youth, is what
Yeah.
I heard you say.
Right, absolutely. And Luke, who is far more eloquent than me, just said, like, if you're going to have a successful program in the high school, it's got to start at a younger age, right? And we're already doing that last year with the club team and then with the summer stuff. So this is just a super helpful way to keep it rolling. So, is there any more questions?
Do we need to vote?
I would like to make a motion that we accept the proposal for the middle school baseball program as presented by Mr. Sapp.
Is there a second?
I would like to second the motion.
Oh, baseball and softball.
Baseball and softball.
My bad, sorry.
I do have a question before we vote. Should we run this by Crystal first to make sure that we do have the money available?
We do. We do have it.
Email came from her, I think.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor? Raise your right hand. All opposed? Looks like you got it. Thank you for all your hard work.
We got it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Hunter, you have 3 minutes.
I won't leave that long. Okay, first, this is about first. I want to make clear I'm representing myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else or claiming to represent anybody else. Okay, I'm not on the calendar committee, although I was in the past. I've heard rumours that
there may be a move to go to a 4-day week or a 4.5-day week. And I'm simply here to say, whatever decision you make it based on the data, please, not on hearsay and speculation and all that kind of stuff. All right? We tried a 4.5-day week, we got rid of it for good reason, and I assume that is probably no longer on the table. I'd like to talk briefly about the 4-day week. You guys have all done your homework. I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. I just want to make sure that if we go to a 4-day week, we go into it with our eyes wide open, knowing what the outcomes are that we should expect. Okay? There has been some really good research. The first thing is that the study's findings do not align with the rhetoric from the people who either propose or oppose a 4-day week. Okay? So if people have all these wishful thinking ideas, please check the data to see what actually happens. All right? In terms of academic outcomes, 4-day weeks had a significant detrimental effect on student learning, which grew more pronounced with time. 4-day weeks were more detrimental to low-income students, so we know that this calendar would favour our high-income students over our lower-income students, and we could expect to increase the achievement gap. Math was more impacted more than reading, so math scores are likely to go down more than reading scores. And the fourth thing is there was no measurable effect on attendance rates. Some people have speculated that kids would come to school more if there were only 4 days. The implication is that kids who are missing 4 days out of 5 now will still miss 4 out of 5. That's all I have to say. I just want to make sure we all know what the outcomes are if you decide to go that route.
Thank you. We will be discussing that.
Thank you.
And do you want a copy of my notes, Megan? Would that be helpful?
Yes, please.
Okay, Mr. Yes.
I just want to know, is that what kind of talk about?
We're gonna just, it's on
Later, okay.
on the agenda for later. Okay, Mr. Escobedo, did you wanna?
Yeah, I'm here to represent, I'm Roberto Escobedo and I represent myself, I guess. But I am on the city council and I do represent a good majority of the migrant community here. And we want to know who's going to be held accountable, if you're going to hold anybody accountable. You have not addressed the community about anything, and then we are not second-class citizens. Our families worked hard for that program, and it got taken advantage by 42 staff members. So that tells me there's a problem in your administration. And one of your administrators abused that program as well. And if the director of that program let that happen or does not know how to run that program, he does not need to be there. Because that is a disservice to those people. And I am one of those people. And my grandparents worked really hard, and I still work really hard as a migrant worker. And education is very important for us. And it got taken away from our students. And it's like going into your house, taking food off your kid's plate, and you not doing nothing about it. That's how important education is to us. And that is, how are we going to succeed when you guys are abusing it? Keeping the poor poor and the rich richer. It's not right. Something needs to happen. That's all I got to say.
You wanna address it, Mr. Jones?
Well, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate all of the community concern about the migrant program. And so it's important for us to hear a lot of the different perspectives that people have, and I appreciate knowing yours. It's been hard, it's been difficult for us. We are kind of caught in the middle of trying to discover everything ODE is finding out.
Well, I've discovered a lot that ODE has, and that's enough to know that it is wrong. And what they did is wrong.
Well,
and they're continuing to hear, and they're investigating it. We have the right to an unbiased investigation. How is that an unbiased investigation when the people that did it are still working here? Please explain.
I appreciate your input. So we make decisions.
It's not right.
I appreciate hearing what you have to say. Thank
And a lot of people think it's not right. And you know it's not right. And you knew about it. And don't say you didn't.
Okay.
And I'm not the only one that feels that way either.
Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to the superintendent's report.
So as you see on the enrollment for the district, as always, I have the enrollment for the entire district at the top. I also have on bullet point number 2, speaking of migrant education, the historical numbers on this sheet, if all of you can look at that. You can take a look at that and ask questions if you'd like, or we can save those for a time. I just wanted, our board member, Mrs. Morinaka, had asked for these numbers in order to provide those for you from a historical perspective. Perhaps addressing what Mr. Escobedo said, to say that we knew what was right and what was wrong is not fully true. We are cooperating with the investigation that ODE has begun, and there's still a lot of information as part of discovery, so we don't know what was right and what was wrong. The training that was provided to our staff members, we're still trying to discover that. And I want to address the public and say, I don't make decisions for people's employment based on incomplete evidence. And so we are waiting to hear more from ODE as well as what we discover before we take action. That would endanger the district further if I was to fire employees without a complete evidence of what has been alleged. And so I just want the board to be aware of that, as well as the public. And we want to do a good job of notifying the public of this migrant investigation, what has taken place, but it is still in process, and so it's difficult. I know people want to know, they want to hear, but we don't have full information yet. So we tried to share what we do have. We had a migrant evening with ODE a week or so ago, and so we're trying to keep the community informed as much as we can. So I appreciate Mr. Escobedo. It's not fun to have people come in and do that, but it's important to hear, right? We all need to hear that. We need to know. I'm sure there's more people frustrated. I myself am frustrated too. But, you know, the allegation that I knew is false. I didn't know. I didn't know all of those things that were right or what was wrong as far as the qualifications of those. So we are waiting for discovery before taking any action. So I want to assure the board of that. The school calendar, that will be a discussion as we, and I appreciate Mr. Hunter coming. Thank you, Mr. Hunter. I agree with you that there is a lot of course there's a lot of ideas out there. There's ideas about, I've heard some people in the surveys, I've read the commentary in the surveys. Some people say you're crazy if you don't do a 4-day week. Some people say you're crazy if you don't do a 5-day week. And so either way, someone's going to be upset. And so I think Mr. Hunter's point is a really good one, that the board and we make decisions based on as much evidence and complete information as we can gather. And it is always based on what is best for children. The reason this district exists is to do what is best for kids. And so I encourage the board, and as this discussion continues, that we make decisions based on that. My Tech High is also part of that. We'll discuss that contract as part of your packet. I don't know that I need to address it now. It'll be further down for, there it is, on number 8, so we can discuss it more then. And I wanted to remind everybody that Valentine's Day is tomorrow. Don't forget. So that's my report tonight.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Johnson. Okay, if you want to look at the consent agenda, take a minute and look it over, and if someone would like to make a motion to approve it as is.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Okay, the consent agenda has been accepted. Okay, now we'll move into old business. We have the My Tech High contract. We got a copy of it in the packets.
So you have that packet there. Matt Bowman with my tech time that we are working with, he has outlined 3 bullet points that I think are important for the board to know. I think those are concerns that were addressed at the last board meeting concerning the online school with my tech time.
Can't find it.
It's a stapled packet with an email at the top of it.
Okay, is there any discussion on it before we?
I do have some comments,
Okay, go ahead.
not on the contract so much, but on our, in my own thinking, we need to move any monies that we get from this contract into a special fund, that we designate the use of that we as a board would designate the use of that money for different items. For example, helping pay for the HVAC that we need.
But it has to be in a separate account.
It needs to be in a separate account. Otherwise, it's funneled into the general fund. And, you know, we need to have better bookkeeping, for one thing. The other thing is that I do believe we need to have a separate administrator for this. For our online education items. It is kind of the wave of the future. So we're just tapping at the door.
Do you have any comments on that?
I agree, as long as we have a different administration for this, and I've said from the beginning that I won't support it unless we have a different administration, but if you've got a plan for that, then.
Yeah, we're developing plans for that.
Right.
Nothing that you can tell us right now?
It's still in process. Not ready to reveal it all just yet.
So should we wait to vote on it until we hear that?
I think, no, that the arrangement of the leadership of the online school or anything else is, that can take place once the contract is approved. So the contract will be first.
So it's my understanding that we will vote to accept this with the provisions that we put the money in a separate account and have a separate administrator. Is that what everyone? Does someone want to make a motion to approve that with those 2 stipulations?
I'll make the motion to accept the contract as with these requests and changes that were made to the contract with the provisions that have been stated by Ms. Milano.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? 6 to 1. Approved. Okay, now we're going into the district calendar. If you look, we have the latest survey results. We'll take questions in just a minute, but let's go over the survey. The latest survey looks like option 1, a 4-day week, had 97%.
Those aren't percents, those are the total number of votes.
Okay, because I was gonna say, these don't have 200. Haven't been out that one. Anyway, so 97 people voted for option 1, which was a 4-day week with no Fridays. 20 people voted for option 2, which would be 4 days a week with half day on Friday for all and second half tutorial. And option 3, it looks like 46% with a 46 people with a 5-day week. So you can look at the percents next to that.
Can I just comment though that, does this really help if all you do is say you want a 4-day or a 5-day and it doesn't have any detail on it? It doesn't talk about what time we get in or out of school. It doesn't talk about if there's tutorial Fridays. I mean, none of that description was in that survey that went out. And every survey that everybody's gotten has been different. So
I just know if you ask any of the kids, of course, they're gonna tell their parents, Mom, vote for a 4-day week, vote for a 4-day week, because that's what they want. But we need to decide what's best for the children of our community.
Well, I really appreciate what Mr. Hunter said, because in doing the research, a lot of people want 4-day week. But if you look at the data, it's not good. And I've talked to a couple of schools, because this has been a debate forever. And the ones that are just starting it love it. They think it's great. But I've talked to a couple of schools that have done 4-day for years and went back to 5-day because it didn't work, or their scores started going down. And all I'm saying is, I second what Mr. Hunter said, and let's look at the data and let's look at what's going to help our kids, not what we want.
Well, I'm not looking at the data, but I just know there's no babysitting here, and there are a lot of parents who work, and their children would be, especially the small ones, would be left alone with no meals and no one to supervise them, and that scares me.
I would like to point out that if we take these totals, 97 plus 20 plus 46, 163 people completed the most recent survey. However, in our district, in person, there are 1,171 students and 146 virtually. So the amount of families versus the amount of students doesn't quite up to the 163 that participated.
A low percent of participation.
Oh, yeah.
Is what you're saying.
I do think that there's an argument to be made towards being an attractive recruiting component for people who might want to come and work for the district if they could work 4 days somewhere and 5 days somewhere else. So that's one thing that I have heard from staff members as far as wanting to recruit new and progressive thinking people. But on the other hand, I do feel like we need to be mindful towards those who are on a different classification of employment that would be affected by dropping to 4 days, such as bus drivers or cafeteria, things like that. It's really, I can see both sides.
Yeah, I worry about our classified employees who would lose a day at work.
I really am concerned that if our kids only go to school 4 days a week, that they will lose a lot during those 3 days off. One of the big things I noticed during COVID, because I work with several Spanish-speaking families, and their kids who are their translators and who spoke very good English at the beginning of COVID, when they came back, their English had diminished considerably. And that was a concern, because then I started seeing that the math skills, and these are not grade school kids, these were kids in high school. And these are not, these are not dumb kids. These were kids who've gone on to college. But I did see that real diminishment. And, these are kids who truly want to succeed, and so that concerns me. That really concerns me. At the same time, I will tell you, I talk to people in Fruitland who've just gone to a 4-day week. They love it. This is year one. They love it. The culture at the schools has really positively increased. And I'm thinking, how are your test scores? So far, so good.
Don't know yet.
Yeah, so far, so good.
Take public comment in just a minute.
So that is the big thing. I worry about, Nyssa is a rich community in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways, it doesn't have that mental stimulation that our kids need. And I really would hate to see that we go to 4 days, have cultural enrichment for 4 days, and then 3 days our kids are in front of a TV or out on the streets or whatever, and that they lose what they gained. I would.
Some of the research I read said that if they're off for 3 days, it takes half of Monday just to get them back in the.
Well, when they're off for summer, how long did it take you to get them back?
Forever.
So,
So, and I don't think we need to do just what's popular in the area. We need to do what's best for our community.
I mean, look at our vision statement.
Yep. Anyway, okay, we'll take a couple comments from the audience. Go ahead, Amy.
I was a latchkey kid. I was raised by a single mom, and thankfully we did have 5 days of school. Personally, I mean, I love having my kids home, but I 100% agree with what Susie's saying, what Mr. Hunter's saying, and what Pat's saying. Like, these kids, it's not even an economic thing necessarily, but people are going to be forced into having their kids be latchkey kids if they don't, and they do lose a lot of education. So I think that even from talking to my daughter who's in high school, she thinks it's better to go to school 5 days. And that's a kid who, I mean, come on, she's a kid. She wants to be home. They love their 3-day weekends, but I personally think that they do lose a lot. And if you do happen to have a kid who needs sped services, it's going to affect that too.
Mr. Hartman?
So I've always been a 5-day week guy. Even when I'm on the board, I hate the 40 weeks. I'm glad there's not 50 people in here like usually. But I just think there's a lot of things you have to do in the 4-day week, like just questions that the community I think would have about, like if school goes till 4 o'clock, is there OTIs anymore? Or like there's a lot of things that the community's not really getting to hear. I was very shocked. I employed 20 different families at a business, and I went down to the break room and I asked everyone, and they're all Hispanic families, and they all said 4-day week. It was shocking. How it would be out there now.
But did they know?
No, I don't think that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of things that go into that I don't think the community really understands, right? Like there's a lot of kids that do OTI. At least I don't know. I tell my kids to go there all the time if they're not doing well. Will that still be there if school goes till 4 or 4:30?
And then what does that do to sports?
Like, there's just sports ridiculous. So I don't know. Like I would not want to be on board. That's it in our community, but that's just I really was looking at I was shocked that our
Mr. Sapp?
So I was on the committee, and I don't think what happened last time was appropriate when people came in the executive session and told you all of the things that they think. I don't think that's appropriate, right? Our job as the committee was to gather information 800 times it felt like, right? And every time it felt like we said, they don't understand what you're asking. Or we're saying, the surveys are not clear enough. Okay, that's fine. Well, you have the continuous same data coming back to you, right? All of the other questions that you're having are great questions, right? What does Fridays look like? Those are actually excellent questions. My question for you guys would be, we hold ourselves to these standards and test scores and all of these things. And if you look at the data that we have with the current calendar, is it getting the results that you want? You need to ask each other those questions. Because with the current calendar, I can tell you, as a teacher, we're not getting the results that we want. I personally have worked in a 4-day district, and I've worked in this district for 10 years or something, and there's a lot that goes into it. And all of the responses that you got, they're on there. I would encourage you to read those responses. I would ask you to please go out and talk to other districts. I, as a basketball coach, would talk to as many administrators as I can when I was out at basketball games. 4-day, 5-day, all of them, okay? And I can tell you, like, their response is really similar to everything that Mrs. Morinaka has already told you, right? Mr. Bates is in Baker, and I talked to him for an hour and a half, right? And only a half hour was about Johnny. The other hour we talked about the calendar ad nauseum, and Baker has recently went to a 4-day week, and I would encourage you to reach out to those guys and talk to them. If you haven't already, you probably already have, right? So the calendar is a huge deal. Like Michael said, he was on the board. It's probably the mostly contested thing that you guys have to do. aside from the earlier visitor, right? So take your time. I would say read those responses. Go out and talk to those other schools and see why they're either having success with it or why they're not having success with it. And all of the data can be shown to make a 4-day week look great or make a 4-day week look bad. 5-day week look great, 5-day week look bad, right? My wife sent me a 6 or 7-year-old kid saying, I'm done. I need 3 days off. This is what I need, okay? Mom, Dad, get me in a 4-day school. Well, whatever. I feel bad that you guys are in this situation, but you signed up for it. And I would encourage you to, whatever.
You signed it.
I did not. Look at the responses, talk to other districts, and see what's working and what isn't, if you haven't already done that.
So the one thing that I have seen or heard in talking to people is the structure of the 4-day. If that's the direction you have to go, the structure is key, right? There has to be further Fridays or whatever, tutorial Fridays. It's the structure, like anything else, it's the structure that makes it work. I don't know what's best.
I have a question, I'm sorry. So if we go to 4-day weeks and we have tutorial Fridays, how are the children who don't live in the area going to get to tutorial Friday?
There would still be.
You run the
We
buses.
still have to run the buses.
We didn't run the buses before, but hopefully we would this time.
What was the last question?
What is the push for a 4-day week?
Everybody else in the county is doing it. I mean, I think so.
So it's because everybody else is doing it?
That, yeah, I think that's.
It seems to be from the data that we receive from the surveys that that is the most popular option among the parents and community members. Whether or not it's an accurate representation of the entire population is still to be considered, but we have seen by and large that is the most popular answer for the preferred calendar among our community members. Those who take the survey.
There was
And
very
they
low
both
responses to that first.
But I am confused so we're wanting to, the thought is to go to a 4-day week, but there's nothing in the community for the kids to do on that other day that they would normally be in school.
Or babysitting for small children.
I'm sorry, what?
Or babysitting for small children.
Well, yeah, and I don't think about that because my kids aren't small anymore. I have a teenager that if he is home by himself, like what are the teenagers gonna be doing? There's not a lot in Nyssa to do. So that would be a concern that I have as a parent, is what are the kids going to do on this off day? Even if their parents are home, there's not much for kids to be involved in. And I also was concerned if they go to school later in the day and then they play sports, are all the sports gonna be bumped back in time, so then they're going to go to bed later, but get up earlier to go to school longer? Is that correct?
That's a real concern. And Mrs. Book?
So to answer part of that question, we never talked in the calendar committee, we never talked about start and end times because the ultimate decision had to be whether we were gonna do a 4-day, a 4.5, or a 5 before we could get into the nitty-gritty of when does our day start, when does our day end, what days are we gonna have on, what are we gonna have off. And so some of the questions that you as a board are having right now were not able to be answered by the calendar committee because the decision that is made by the board is going to ultimately drive how long a school day is and those kinds of things.
But can you see how I can't make a decision without that information?
So just look at this. I know there's a couple of people, Sarah and Mr. Hunter, but just if you look at this part of your survey that the calendar committee worked really hard on. So basically you're proposing for a 5-day week, it's either 160 days, so if that option 1 is 160 or 162. Option 3 is similar to current. And then on options 4, 5, and 6, you're talking between 140 and 146 days of instruction. So anyway, I just wanted to be aware of how many days of instruction, if you do any bit of math on that, how many. But we also have to meet a minimum number of contact hours. And so those 140 to 146 days are going to be longer days to make up for 990. High school is at 990 hours required. Is that right, Mr. Jackman?
9 through 11, yes.
What's that?
9th through 11th, yes.
9th through 11th grade, 990 hours. And we don't give fewer days to middle school and elementary, we just all do the same calendar. So, but we try to do the minimum for the rest of the district. So I apologize for that other's answer, Mrs. Rose.
Okay, go ahead, Mrs. Sapp.
As a mom of a very busy daughter that you all heard about, one thing I noticed this year with more schools going to 4-day week, she maintains a high level of academics, puts a ton of pressure on herself, takes college credit classes. Those are all optional. She doesn't have to do that, but that's just her personality. But what I did notice and what I would like to keep in mind, even though she's going to be graduating, our athletes are very, Lauren's not the only athlete like this. The majority of our athletes are our high achievers. They started missing school a ton more this year because the schools in our area and the schools in our league do not go to school on Friday. So their Friday is therefore their Thursday. So we're leaving school Thursday, getting home, playing, getting home super late, coming to school because athletes have to come to school if they're going to play in a game or come to practice. And then teachers, who I adore though, will schedule a review day on Thursday, but we've all traveled to Burns, left at 11. They didn't get to review. They don't know what's on the test. Test is on Monday. So we are running into that, like volleyball. Baker had a volleyball tournament. All of our student athletes, if you went, well, you didn't, but at the volleyball awards banquet, every single one of those girls, with the exception of 2, were 4.0 students. They got like 6th in the state for academic awards. They're gone the whole tournament day because every school at that tournament was 4-day week. And I don't think that that's the right thing to do just because everybody else is doing it. But at least at the high school, if we're not going to do it, we need to be firmer with our schedule and tell schools like Umatilla and Burns, we aren't moving to Thursday. We have school on Thursday. You're going to have to play us on Friday. Because they miss a lot of school. And then I love Nyssa. I grew up here. We don't have a ton of stuff to do for kids. And we should all be battling to do that. We should go to city council and say, what are you going to build for us?
Tomorrow,
I think I'm gonna go.
But it's also not our job as a school to babysit the kids. It's not. And we don't have babysitters, but maybe people would babysit. I would babysit on a Friday. But I also have a great idea. I don't have a degree, so it's all you smart people that have to figure out how to do this. But if we did go to 4-day schools, my idea for high school was to make Friday school the detention day. That's when you miss school or you were truant or you're failing. That's when you go in. And if coaches can figure out how to run the locker room all summer long with just having to go in twice, we can figure out a schedule for teachers to watch those detention hours or those kind of things. And then enrichment for the kids in elementary school or middle school who need enrichment activities. Have their parents sign them up for that, just like they do after school programs. Lizzie did a dance in front of everybody. That was an enrichment activity. That wasn't that was an after school program. So, I mean, I'm sure we're not the only district that has thought of something brilliant like that, in my own opinion. Just kidding with that part. But there's a lot of things that can go good or bad.
Okay, we'll take one more. Oh, 2 more.
Mr. Hunter.
Mr. Hunter, and then.
Yeah, on the sports thing, remember the middle schoolers have sports on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you make school longer, Monday to Thursday, middle schoolers are going to miss a much bigger proportion of school than they're already missing. You mentioned tutorial Fridays as a possibility. At the middle school, we tracked every kid that came to tutorial Fridays, which classrooms they were in, how long they were in each classroom. I probably still have that data somewhere. And I can show you how few kids came and how little time they spent.
And Cindy, real quick.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak. So, diverse opinions have been expressed with reasons as to why the district should choose a 4, 4.5, or a 5-day. And as I listened to these reasons, I questioned to myself, are these reasons a want or are they a need? So we were asked, the union was asked to do a poll to question our classified if we wanted, what type of calendar we preferred. And we made it simple with one question and 3 options. And option 1 was a 4-day. Option 2 was a 4-day, like a 4.5 with tutorial Friday. Only if there was no loss in pay due to shortened hours. And if there was loss in pay, then a 5-day. And option 3 was a 5-day calendar similar to the one we have now. We got feedback from 39 classified, and 35.9% chose the 4-day. 38.5% chose the 4-day with tutorial Friday, and 25.6% chose the 5-day calendar. So 2 of these options would result in no loss in pay. And I'm here speaking as I'm the classified union president, and so I'm here to share our stance on this whole, divisive topic. So as a union, we feel any calendar that results in shortened hours would not be beneficial because it affects the livelihood of some of our members. We see that it would affect the bus drivers, the food service, IAs, and I'm not sure about the librarians. Classified are not salary, and these classifications are the lowest paid in the district with an annual income of around $25,000, give or take at most. The majority, I would say, are more in the $15,000, $20,000 range. So shortened hours would result in less, smaller paychecks. One argument stated for a 4-day calendar was how it would benefit, how it makes the district more competitive in the job market. And I can see that in one area, but in another area, I could see it would be less competitive. As it is now, these classifications work less than 8 hours a day. They don't always work 5 days in the week and don't get paid during winter break, spring break, or the majority of winter break, spring break, and summer break. The turnover rate is higher in the classified area, and if paychecks are going to be smaller, then there's a chance that the turnover rate would be even higher. But I would like to point out, if the district is interested in decreasing hours and raising the pay to compensate for missed time, for lost, what would be lost, we would be happy to have that conversation. To briefly touch on the 4.5 with tutorials, I remember doing that years ago, and the way we did it was optional for these classifications. So some people worked, some people didn't work. It was a choice. I wasn't the president at the time. I don't remember hearing any complaints about it. I think it worked, but that's about all I know about that. So I'd like to end this by saying that you are in a position where you have to make a decision in what's going to be best for the district overall. And if I were in your shoes, I would be asking myself the question, who does it hurt if you choose a 4-day? Does it hurt any students, any staff, any parents? And who does it hurt if you choose a 4.5 with tutorial? And who does it hurt if you choose a 5-day, a calendar like we have now? Thank you.
Thank you. So I don't think we're ready to make a decision. Did you have a comment?
Susie, you and I had a discussion about this, and you asked me to write down some items that I was concerned about. Should we select a 4-day week? And so I did. And I was concerned about prep time for staff, work days for staff, how the impact on our SPED students, our Head Start kids, our preschool kids, our ELL kids, our dual language kids, the impact on nutritional services. I mean, if we go to a 4-day, kids aren't gonna get food on Fridays. So our after-school programs, because you go to a 4-day week, you're probably gonna have a longer day. So impact on after-school programs and sports, the impact on classified and bus drivers, the potential that they could lose benefits, and that really concerns me. Benefits are valuable. The impact on our title programs and our summer schools. I don't know what that impact would be. I would really like to know. What have other schools experienced, as you mentioned? So, at the same time, I recognize that if everyone around us goes to 4 days and we can't attract teachers, you can't do your best for kids, for your students, if you don't have teachers. So, that's a thought. The problem with childcare, and maybe we should look at a different type of schedule, because I actually thought maybe we should have a 5-day schedule for our elementary school kids. I don't know how some of our high school kids are doing. I remember when I was a senior, I sort of checked out. I hate to say that, but I was in school, but I really wasn't. There are a lot of different things that we need to consider. And whatever decision we make, and I think, Jeremy, you told me this, if we make the decision, we need to stick with it for more than just a year. We need to stick with it for 5 years.
Another question I had when we were making our list is, as a former teacher, when are you gonna have prep time? When are you gonna have time to get together, like with all the 5th grade teachers and plan, or all the math teachers and plan? If you're there till 4 o'clock just teaching kids, you're gonna be exhausted, and the last thing you're gonna do is stay for a meeting. So I don't know.
And what about, going a little further and reducing the number of periods that we have, making them longer, reducing the number of electives?
That's a way you can do it.
I think that we'd have better education. You need more than 46 minutes to teach.
So do we need to discuss this more? Do we need to think about it more and go next time?
I think the board can decide what you want to do. If you want to wait another month, that's fine. I just want to go on record as my advice to the board is what Mr. Hunter had said. So there's been so many wonderful things said. I don't want to discount anything anybody said. It's all important. It really is. But regardless of the decision you make, somebody's going to be mad at you. So we got to be comfortable saying we're going to make a decision that we think is best for our kids. Someone said, why don't we be progressive and keep up with the Joneses? I, in fact, think it's progressive to do the right thing regardless of what else is going on. And I just believe our community is unique. It's different. That's why I've always loved Nyssa, because the people are invested in this community. If we can't attract people to a 5-day week, then people need to choose. They need to make their choice what they want. But I believe that there are people who choose Nyssa because it is a great place to be, and if it's 5 days a week, it's not that big of a deal. We do the right thing for kids. I am 100% believe that the 5-day week is the right thing for this community. Now, if we need to alter our 8-period day, that's a different discussion. And we can do that without a board vote, without all the surveys. And I agree that it's probably a great idea to give kids more contact time per class period. But I am just not a fan of the 4-day week. I think it's trendy. I think it's the wrong thing for this community. I think it's wrong to propose after COVID, where kids suffered so much without instruction. It's wrong to propose less instruction going forward. I'm not okay with that. That's my recommendation. I have 0 vote.
So shall we vote tonight, or do you want to take one more month to think about it and be ready to vote next month?
I personally would like to think about it a bit longer.
We don't really have anything set that we're voting on. I mean, where's my calendar?
That's correct.
That says.
4 day
we're
week,
voting.
5 day week.
Yeah,
That's what you're voting on.
I'm not gonna vote on that tonight.
Okay, so shall we really do some gut-wrenching research and thinking and try and be ready by next month to vote on?
The only other thing I want to say is this. I had proposed what Fort River Community Schools do. Excuse me. They decided in order to kind of compensate for all this big discussion about the 4 day, 5 day, they decided to do 5 day week for the first 3 quarters of school and a 4 day week for the last quarter of school. That kind of met perhaps in the middle, but if you look at our current calendar now that we have this year, there are a lot of Fridays off anyway. I mean, I don't know, 2 per month sometimes, most of the time. Sometimes it's all Fridays, but most of the time there's at least 1 and sometimes 2 Fridays off. So it's not like it's a horrible schedule anyway. But you're right, Jeremy, I think you bring up a good point. What calendar am I voting on is the question.
Yeah, I personally, I would just like more information from you on. I mean, you say 4 day, that's pretty big. I mean, is it just 4 days or is it 4 days unless you have Monday off and then you go on Friday, or is it tutorial Fridays? What time are we going, starting, stopping?
We're extending the whole school year altogether.
So
that's her call, I guess.
We just were asked to gather this information. If you would like us to have calendars for you, I'm pretty sure we can do that. Now, the seat hours will change dramatically if you go to a 7-period day. So now you're looking at not only you lessen the days of school, right? Because we're teaching quite a bit less, because you give me an hour with kids as opposed to 45 minutes is a pretty big deal, right? So it also, that is something you have to, we said that from the get-go. Why are we're putting the cart before the horse? What is the goal of this calendar? Is it less time in school? Is it less class periods per day? It's great that you guys are having this discussion, because you could point the committee in the direction that you would like to see it go.
I just want to get it done, but I don't know how to proceed from here, I guess. I mean, I hate the calendar. But
It's controversial.
Every year.
Every
But what's our next step to getting somewhere so that we don't just keep talking about it?
I was just gonna say, being on the calendar committee, like Travis said, it was more of just trying to get information for you guys about 4 or 5 day. And then all those details would have to come. So if the decision was to go to 4 day, then there would be a lot of communication about what that's gonna look like. So I guess that was maybe not what we were thinking we were supposed to do, was to actually present to you what that 4 day would look like, or what the options would be, or what the start time and end time would be. But those would be details that would come if that was the one that was voted on. So just for explanation as to why we did it this way, I guess.
I think you just answered my question. My question was, what is it set in stone if a 4 day week is decided, would it extend the school day? And you're pretty much saying no.
No, not if you go to a 7-period day.
Or extend
the school year.
Mm-hmm. And there was talk, it might be 15 minutes in the morning or 15 minutes in the afternoon, so it wouldn't be that drastic, but we might have a longer school year by just making those small changes.
But also, we didn't know how much was the seat hours, Mr. Hunter? 990?
990.
How many are we at right now?
We're over.
How much?
I don't know.
It's significant.
I think it's perhaps 1,100 maybe.
So we're already days over multiple weeks, right?
Unless we have a snowpocalypse again.
Please.
No.
That's why we build it in. Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of things that we could present to you guys, but we weren't asked that. We were asked to get what the community wants.
You actually did have 6 calendars.
I did not have 6
They were
calendars.
part of that survey. There were 6 calendars part of the survey. That is correct.
I know, like,
So we've
Kirby
done
and I
that work.
have talked about the credit hours that students get, that if we're gonna have students have 6 extra credits when they graduate, then they need to have a path to graduate early. We don't have a path.
Which reduces your ADM by quite a bit.
The 8th grade day does that, yeah.
But then if we reduce the amount of credits they get, then we need to make it intentional, however we do it.
Yeah, we have seniors that have 4 teacher aid periods just so we can keep them on campus. So
The kids can't graduate early.
I
We
know.
do.
Well,
Yeah,
but
they apply
like
for
the English credit, I know is the one that there's a lot of issue with.
Also, just to relieve your stress, you're really just deciding on whether the 2 days a week that we, or 2 days a month that we have Fridays, we come or we don't come. Like really, because we really are off. Teachers are here. It's PD, but kids are off 2 Fridays, and parents figure it out, or it's a huge deal. But then, like when you narrow it down. Kids are off 2 Fridays usually. Teachers are here doing PD. I don't know when they would do that if it went to 4 days. But it's just 2 days.
Fridays.
Just 2 days.
Okay, so it sounds like we're gonna vote on it next month.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. We need more.
Either on a 4-day or, yes, Mr. DeLeo.
So will you have another board study session?
Yeah, but that's to do Dr. Johnson's evaluation.
Oh, okay.
We can do that too. We can do a little
We
session.
can talk about it. But... Okay. Let's move on to new business. Mr. Hawkins isn't here for the scoreboard, so do we want to move that?
That's here, and so basically the discussion we want to have, we're going to tell that he's not feeling well, so with his, excusing myself, or I didn't mean to reveal too much about him, but he had gathered this information. He and Janet and Brett. Brett, do you have any comments on this? Or scoreboards. And so next year, Oregon will have a shot clock. So that's a new animal. Right? Oregon is adopting a shot clock for basketball. So that requires a scoreboard.
That's a shot clock.
That has a shot clock. So there's that cost in there. There's also, if you look at these options, I'm trying to think of which school. Baker. We went to Baker High School. They have a very complicated scoreboard. Mr. Hunter, you're probably the best expert at scorekeeping that we have in here, but Baker's scoreboard, it has not only just the scoreboard and the fouls and all that stuff, but they have every player that is on the court at each time and keeping track of their stats. And I think who said that? Was it Jacoby? Christie? I think Jacoby said this because he helps with the shot clock or the scoreboard too. Is that they have 2 people doing it? You have to have 2. Mr. Hunter probably is capable of doing it.
So there's no way you can do the scoreboard and the shot clock.
Okay.
It's fast as Mr. Hunter does.
That's fast as it is.
So, yeah, I mean, the issue is, to me, the issue is going to be for small school districts like ours. The shot clock is not something that you can just call somebody in to do. It takes as much training as doing the scoreboard.
And it's just
so that is an extra person you're going to have to find for every basketball game.
Correct.
And then if you look at the Baker system where you have all the kids who are on and off the court,
that's a third person.
How many volunteers are you going to find to fill that in?
So you're going to need a third person for that one. And that's pretty complicated.
Yeah. So it starts getting, in the district our size, it starts getting tricky. Just to manage the number of people.
She said she'd do it.
You know what I did? I said that if they got one of those, I'd be here and I would do it.
There you go.
Whoa.
There we go.
I'm here anyway. I mean, I'm at all the games anyway, so.
So there were several options that were presented. Were we
Right.
hoping to decide which we would like to go forward, or is this more just for our information to consider?
It's information. Ryan was gonna present tonight. He had done the research on this. and
So now this
He's
shop
not
clock, is
well, and
it
I-
just a clock, or is it like the one LeGrand has?
There's a couple of options.
There's several options.
And I am not educated on this. Ryan is the one that did the research.
So you're saying we should wait on this?
Probably wait before yes. He's texting me. I apologize for texting. He's at home instead of watching, but I'm not getting.
It'll help me to have Crystal here to ask her questions too. So.
Right.
Okay, so let's move on then to the special district director elections. Filing date and deadline, announce 3 open board positions up for the county elections. Filing date is currently open until March 16th. So that's for the Roger ESD or
That's for the Nyssa School Board.
the 3 positions?
We have 3 positions up for re-election.
Which are,
Raise your hand. Money Bell, Jeremy, and Donnie. Donnie was appointed, Money Bell was appointed, so they're up for re-election. Jeremy, so the paperwork to file for that, if we would love to have you all run again. So
okay.
But it is open to the public as it always is.
it is.
Yes.
So this is a regular board election. It's not appointed by the board. So I expect to see campaign signs around town.
I'm the only one that ever did that.
Okay, and then policy JECB is an action item as per policy JECB, admission of non-resident students. I guess you talked about it in the ad council and.
We did. Ad council, what did we decide? So that is the policy. As you remember, every year the board votes on what we would like the numbers of students to be. And I think what we had decided last time, we actually updated the second page, is grades, all grades K through 12 is maximum to be determined based on class sizes and resources available. The board moved to let the administrators make that decision. Now, it's not that we don't want your guidance or that we want to overload the school in classes. We certainly want to keep the board informed about that. So, but it did allow us some opportunity to make some judgment decisions.
So we do have the option if a student is expelled from another school to say no?
Yes. That is state law that does allow us, but depending on the expulsion, the reason for the expulsion.
Independent.
Weapons, if it's a weapons expulsion, we are not required to accept that student.
But if it's something minor, we have to accept it.
Depending on what it is, there could be some, like if it was a hazing incident or a fighting or something.
I feel confident allowing the administrators to make that decision based on class sizes and resources. I don't feel that that's something we need to micromanage.
Do we need to vote on that?
Well, this
You need to
is,
set a deadline.
it's a policy we have to accept once a year, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not necessarily, it's wording within the policy, not necessarily the policy. The policy just states that you will announce to the public how many you will let in and by what date they will deputy yours.
So what date is
June 15th was
June
last
15
year.
is our deadline.
Okay. All right. Okay, graduation dropout rates.
Well, we have to approve it.
Oh, we have to approve it? Okay, somebody want to make a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve this as presented with the June 15th date.
Second.
All in favor? The motion is carried. And let's go on to the graduation dropout rates.
All right, I have a hand up for you. I looked at the graduation rate for the last 6 years at the high school. And there's the report card on one side and then there's the graduation rate on the other. A couple. And, I'm gonna need that. Okay, you know. So, I handed that last copy to our graduation specialist because this is a major focus of her job. And you'll see that with her help, it has increased a little bit there. So this is our most recent school report card, and it has the indicators on there. And I just wanted to share that as some background context. If you look there on the on-time graduation, 88%, Oregon average is 81. And that's looking at your cohort group that comes in as a freshman and how many of those graduate 4 years later. And so as we have students that leave our school, we have to make sure that we know where they went and that we that there's a records request and we send the requester their records. Otherwise it counts against us for a dropout. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But then 5-year completers. This is so notice that on-time graduation for last year was 88%, 5-year completion 82%. So that is the cohort group from the previous year. And when we look at the table, look at that. So like we have 88%. Our next report card will show the 5-year completer and how many of those completed after the 5-year. And that's students that come back for a year to complete their credits so that they can graduate, or GED.
So of the 12
So,
didn't graduate.
I looked at that. It actually looks at the previous cohort year. If you look at the on-time graduation, that's the cohort that started with us in 17-18. 5-year completion, they started with us in 16 and 17. And what percentage of those? And when I get to the next chart, then I'll show that. A couple other indicators you're going to see on the chart are on track to graduate. That is freshmen that have earned a quarter of the credits towards graduation their freshman year. And then the regular attenders. The regular attenders, the way they're looking at that, that's not your school attendance percent. That is the percent of students that have 90% attendance. And so that's a 62%, Oregon average was 64, and unfortunately today when I calculated it was 71%. So it is somewhat higher. Okay, if you look at the back, you'll see the chart at the bottom. You'll see the last 6 years there, and you'll notice we have a trend since 18-19 where we're increasing our graduation rates from 73 to 79 to 81 and then 88. And you see there that finally this year we're above the state average, which we've been below over the 3 previous years, and so but we've made progress. However, we're still below the graduation rate that we had in the 2016-17 and 2017-18 school years. And so it shows that, yeah, we can continue to improve. Regular attenders, if you look at that, as you go down, it's actually pretty amazing that we had with a 62% regular attenders, that we had an 88% graduation rates. Usually those correspond a little bit more. That means when the students were there, man, we were working on them. And then that ninth grade on track to graduate. That was 83% last year. I wrote out a few of my conclusions there, and I don't want to read all of them, but I'll hit some of those. So yes, we're up to 88%. I think that's an accomplishment, especially after COVID. It's interesting that even in spite of COVID, the graduation rate continued to increase. I think part of that is our teachers really did respond well during COVID, doing what they could to engage students and taking tactics and learning materials out to the houses and connecting with the families. And then also we did, Sarah moved from the main office to the counseling office where she's one of our graduation specialists. And then Josh DeAnda with the migrant department, our graduation specialist. And so they're calling in those students and seeing what we can do as a school to get them on track and going through transcripts. And so we identify early who's at risk and making sure they have a way of recovering the credits. So that I do attribute the success there. My second bullet there when we look at this, and when I reflect on our graduation rates, and David and Sarah, please join in. You know, so I like this year. I have 3 students that I'm worried about, and our counseling office is on them every day. And it's like, I'm going to be at graduation, are you? And you know, helping our students connect the dots. Okay? You got to every day. You got to do something to move closer to graduation, because you know it's not just going to happen. So we do. I mean, you do have some seniors that fizzle out at the end, but more commonly we have sophomores and freshmen who struggle. They come in as freshmen. It's a difficult transition. They don't earn the credits, and by the end of their sophomore year, they disappear or say they're going to get a GED and don't. And so that's a key group. And that when they look at that cohort group, that's why they look at it. Those are the ones that I fear that we're using. If you look down that second bullet, I kind of addressed that. Interesting enough, the high school success, the reason that was developed, it was around dropout prevention. It was college career readiness, and it was CT classes, with the idea that we connect them as they come in as freshmen and get them through. As a school, that's also, you've heard me talk a little bit about, it's a simplified resiliency model. That if you look at the research, if every student has a key adult connection, they have a favorite class, they have a club in sports, and have positive peers, if I can get a student those things, then they're engaged in their learning, and we can pull them through. And so you've heard me talk about that before. The third summary there, man, COVID killed our attendance rates. And so attendance continues to be the #1 reason that our students are credit deficient, why they get frustrated and fail. And so that's an area that we need to continue to focus on. I'm glad that we have 71% of our students have 90% or above. However, that still means that there's work to be done. And then that last part, our goal, our short-term goal is 91%. I want to get back to the level that we were at 16 and 17. However, even that, when you look at the business we're in, every student who doesn't graduate is tragic for their future, for the family that they have, for the way that the generations repeat. And so, yeah, in our business, of course, it's every child. We got to make sure that we do all that we can, and when they're not going to graduate, that we get them into something, whether it's they come back for the 5th year, whether we get them into a GED program, some type of program where they can finish in the skills. Yeah, I could talk for a long time. If you look at well, let me finish that thought. So, some areas. We know that to improve the graduation rate, it does take a consistent effort over 4 years. Starting with making sure that we get those freshmen connected, that we look at student engagement, that we look at attendance, that we help them set goals for college and career readiness so that they have a reason to continue to be in school. Help them choose classes and credits that get them towards their goal. So we're making every credit count instead of just counting credits. And of course, our kids, post-COVID, they really are a different bunch. There's never been more social and emotional needs. And so we need to make sure that we're meeting those needs as well. We recently went through our accreditation process, and from that, we will eventually be doing a presentation about, we know that there's some areas that they're going to recommend, and those will continue to be our focus. Interesting enough, if you look down there at the bottom, so our graduation rate was 88%. I'm interested to see our completion rate next year, because we had, I think 6, 7. We had a core group of students who, coming through COVID, they were starting their junior junior, senior year with, what, 4 or 5 credits? Am I exaggerating?
They were severely credit deficient, so much so that they couldn't make that up. We had 7.
And so we did a partnership with the HEP program, with the migrant departments. And so that
At TVCC.
the TVCC HEP is GED for migrant students. And we did a partnership where they taught our students on our campus. And so that they still had all of the support from our staff and our programs, but they were also able to get complete the HEP program. The unique part about the HEP program is that transitions into the next step, whether it's learning English, whether it's enrolling in TVCC for, I think, 6 free credits. It rolls them over so that they can get the skills that they need. And so our 88% was our graduation rate. I anticipate that completion rate is going to be in the 90s.
5 of them completed their GED.
So that was a success. And then that goes back to the idea that, yeah, we can chase numbers. If I chase numbers with a graduating class of 85, every kid makes a substantial difference. But we're not in the business of numbers. We got to make sure each of those students have what they need for a next step. If you look at the state average, we are 88%. State average is 81%. So statewide average rate for graduation was 81%. But that in the parentheses there, when they looked statewide, average graduation rate for students in the CT program was 93%. So 12% higher. And it's like, wow, that's working. Okay, why is that working? Well, it's working because we're connecting students as freshmen and they're getting in these programs and they have a reason to be there. They have a favorite class. They have that key advisor from whether it's AG or FBLA or from our nursing program. They have that key adult advisor. They have the positive peers. It's got the club built in. And so it really is, and of course the meaningful and relevant curriculum goes with it. So that really is part of the answer, and I'm proud of our CT programs. I do believe that's helping us.
Is that 93% the state?
That's the statewide graduation rate for students who are in a CT program.
We don't know what ours is.
Yeah.
And I didn't, and I was looking at that today, man, I wish I had time to calculate it. So I need to calculate that for you.
Well,
I would be curious.
Those 7 were in CTE.
They weren't.
So it was 100%.
Well, 100% of them.
100%
Well,
of people that were
but
in
not
CTE that graduated.
Well,
No,
right.
not every student that graduated is in CTE though.
That's what,
Right.
that's what
He's saying-
our percentage of kids that were in CTE graduated.
yes.
Yeah.
I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
but
I'm
that
just
is
saying.
correct.
Okay, now I'm following. I'm like, wait.
100% of our kids that were in CTE graduated.
Yes, none of those kids were in CTE.
So that's powerful. And not only graduate, but the statistics show they go to college and they stay because they know why they're going. And so that's a good thing. You know, if I look at, anyway, if I go down through my list of valedictorians for this NADET graduation and how many of them are part of a CT program, it's pretty impressive. Anyway, I can talk more later if you have questions. Yeah, you know, we are on the right path. We need to keep moving forward. And any questions?
Right, thank you. Okay, for our board study, we just want to announce that Classified Appreciation Week is March 6th to the 10th, and we're taking care of our part of that. And that February 27th at 6 o'clock, 2 weeks from tonight, we have an executive session, and we need to have our evaluations done that time. And if there's nothing else, we will adjourn. Meeting is adjourned.
haven't tried the, we have to try it. We'd have to find out where to start.
Scary.